Go here to Callan. And Callan says, afternoon, gentlemen. Hope you're staying cool. What a beautiful tribute to Gaudreau this past week. Love seeing hockey community come together during such a difficult time.
Oh, and if you saw the video of what happened outside the Calgary Saddle Dome and the video what happened outside of Columbus's Nationwide Arena, when they sang Amazing Grace, the fans, 7,000 fans in Calgary, sang Amazing Grace. Wow. It was really something. And I just saw a short clip of the memorial service outside Philadelphia today. So, Callum, Johnny Hockey's smile is what I think we'll all remember. But boy, what a tough blow for Columbus, and obviously tough blow for the National Hockey League.
Again, you get choked up during these moments, I mean, because, you're passionate about
experiencing it.
Yeah, but at any rate, what I enjoyed seeing, and this is kind of a weird way to say enjoy, but is to see the community come together.
Sure.
Not just the fans, but the players in the league. And it just makes you realize sports is something that we follow as fans. There's obviously a whole business aspect to it, but it has deep cultural meaning to people in their personal lives. And so when something like this happens, like when Kobe crashed in the helicopter or when we lost Muhammad Ali, these are big moments.
Yeah, very much so. And you balance it because we cover it and we talk about it and I write about it all the time. And here we are talking about the outpouring of the hockey community, both sides of the border, players, management, and to a degree the media. And we're covering the Johnny Hockey story. And we have to cover Tyreek Hill and all the crap that he's involved in. And the stuff that he's involved in off the field, it's pretty tawdry. So we have to cover it all. But the Johnny Hockey story is special. Next one.
Well, at least we're not talking about Trevor Bauer. So let's go here to Jason. LA is a joke and should not have a team. All visiting teams have way more fans than the home teams. Chargers have not had a home game since they were stolen from San Diego. Hashtag Spanos Devil.
Well, I concur with you to a degree. I don't know what the final breakdown was of Raider fan versus Charger fan, but I think there was awful lot of silver and black in the stands. Now, the Rams are different. I mean, the Rams have been to the Super Bowl twice under Sean McVay. That's pretty doggone impressive. Chargers have not gotten there. Is it a good NFL city? Well, we're in a massive major market. But I will tell you, the Chargers just are not the attraction nor the draw that the Dodgers are or that the Lakers are. Or maybe the Clippers have become when the Clippers thought they were going to be an NBA Finals team. Chargers are just not at that point. Now, maybe it'll change. Maybe the arrival of Harbaugh and the linkage with Justin Herbert and the changes that Joe Ortiz has made are going to make them an AFC powerhouse before the season is done. But at the end of the day, the Chargers are on the periphery while you got the Dodgers and you got the Lakers here emotionally. And, of course, those two franchises have been in L.A. forever.
Yeah, it's interesting, though. Don't you sometimes wonder what's the saturation point? And you compare it to, say, like New York, and, sure, they've got multiple football and baseball teams and hockey and everything else and basketball, but they don't have big time college sports in the New York City metropolitan area. And you go to Chicago and there's Notre Dame and Northwestern, but that's not anywhere near the same level. So you've got like 10 teams maybe that are all fighting for relevancy in LA.
Yeah. But that's a big marketplace. It's a volume marketplace.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
Yeah. All right, next question.
Okay, let's go to Chris. I'm here to show you my bleeping lightning bolt. What an abysmal offensive performance. 2 first downs midway through the third quarter and still win by double digits. The Raiders are an absolute joke. Joe Alt made Crosby look like an SDSU backup lineman. Bleeping bleak indeed.
Well, I thought the Chargers offensive front played pretty well. Joe Alt really held up against Max Crosby. The Raiders played really well defensively. And I said last Thursday when we did the preview, big acquisition, Christian Wilkins, and he made that defensive front violent inside. The Chargers could not run the football, and what he did with Crosby through 3 quarters, but they eventually ran out of gas. And the Charger defense played really well. Raiders have issues in the offensive front. I think the Raiders got a quarterback issue now that they need to consider Aiden O'Connell just being the starting quarterback as they go to Baltimore next week. And I just don't think Minshew can play well enough not to make mistakes that kill him. He made mistakes that killed him again yesterday. So it's only 1 week in the books. Chargers, the arrow looks pointed up. Raiders arrow is still kind of down this way, and they got to solve some of those issues. I don't think they got a true legitimate quarterback, and in this league, you need a quarterback to win.
Yeah, I'm really worried about the Raiders, and Jimmy G isn't going to be the savior either. Yeah. Jimmy G's the Rams, not the Raiders anymore. But anyways,
no, he's the 49ers.
Or the 49ers.
Yeah, Jimmy G is now with the 49ers. No, I'm sorry.
No, he's with the Rams.
He's with the Rams as a backup under suspension.
Yeah. I kept thinking about him with the but anyways.
This heat is driving me crazy.
Yeah,
my brain's not functioning.
We're melting. So one of the things about this game that surprised me, actually didn't surprise me, more confirmed what I already knew. Greg Olson is a good analyst. Yeah. And he really did a good job. And he was really pointing out the whole, Max Crosby versus Joe Alt and how many times they matched up one-on-one. And it was really good insight. Well, that leads me to a kind of a tangent is what's your take on Tom Brady week 1?
I didn't get to see much of it because I was watching the Charger game.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't get to see the game of the week. I've only read just snippets here. The reaction. Some said he's got a lot of work to do. Some said, we don't feel he was comfortable enough with what his role was. Whereas Olson has got a year under his belt and he's glib and he's insightful. Not that he's critical. So I think Brady just has to find his way.
Yeah, he will, but he's going to still be treated like, the belle of the ball when he's in there in the media. But anyways, it was an exciting game. I mean, if you're a Charger fan, you got to be excited. There's still a lot of Charger fans in San Diego. I mean, it's amazing how many of my friends in town are on Facebook wearing their Charger gear. So there's people here, even in San Diego, that are happy to see that win.
Hey, a win is a win, and wins are tough to get. They grew as the game went on. They played better. And now they go play Carolina, that's a miserable storyline. My God, the Carolina Panthers. Somebody wrote me an email today and said, Hacksaw, thank God there's not relegation in the NFL because the Carolina Panthers would be out of the league. I mean, they look pitiful. And now they lost their top defensive player, defensive tackle Derek Brown. So I was thinking about this morning driving over. These are the guys who traded their top wide receiver, DJ Moore, to Chicago, traded Christian McCaffrey to San Francisco, and then they got rid of their defensive end, Brian Burns. He wound up with the New York Giants as a free agent. Now they lose Derek Brown, their star defensive tackle. That's their top 4 football players. Mm-hmm. And poor Bryce Young. It's like he doesn't have anybody to help around him.
So now imagine the Chargers win next week on the road, and the Raiders go on the road in Baltimore, and they lose. We could see the Chargers 2-0 and the Raiders 0-2.
You think Raider fan even noticed? They're normally drunk all the time, are they not? 0-2, but Raiders have to make a decision as to what they're going to do at quarterback. They got to get more competitive there because they sure have fixed the defense. Now they got to fix that one. It's the most critical position in the NFL. Next question.
Okay, let's go to 4RXLA, and it's a two-parter here. This is all Raider talk. He says, the Raiders have big problems on offense, poor quarterback, poor offensive line, poor running back. Getsy is who we thought he was, lousy. Adams will be traded by the deadline. And then he goes on to say, there are sober Raider fans that aren't felons out there, but after 25 years of losing, our numbers are dwindling.
Oh, it's tough. I have a segment here. I'm going to do one of these. Maybe I'll do it on Thursday's show. Raiders have had 2 winning seasons in 21 years. 2.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. Raiders have not won a playoff game since 2002. That's even more unbelievable. And
holy crap.
Raider fan shows up in his costume, picking fights, being drunk, being Raider fan, and accepting the product on the field. How is that humanly possible? You could have 2 winning seasons since 2002 and still have any fan base at all.
Well, here's my serious answer is I think for the Raider Nation, it's like a community, it's part of their identity, that represents who they are, and they're not going to abandon Raiders no matter what, because they're loyal, so when they get together for the ball game, even if the Raiders get their ass kicked, they're okay with it because those are our guys.
I'm not going to pile on Raider fan, except to say last place, baby. Okay, we move on.
Okay, let's go here to Jason. He says, Robert Suarez has one pitch and every hitter knows it. He needs to be taken out of the reliever role. Tanner Scott is ready to take that role for the postseason.
I don't think I'd go that far. I just think they need to be more judicious, Jason, with how many times they're going to Tanner Scott. Tanner Scott pitched 4 games in a row a week or so ago. Jason Adam, he pitched 3 or 4 days in a 5-day window. Suarez pitched 5 times in 7 games. That to me is way too much use. It's granted you got a bullpen that's pretty strong, but the overuse has been detrimental just recently. So I hope that smart people in the Padre hierarchy will just reconsider how many times you pick up the phone and ask for one of those guys, because we need them over the last, I don't know, is it 19 or 21 days of the regular season? And you're definitely going to need them in postseason. So, but, demote him? No, I'm not going to demote him, but I'd sure use him differently right now than he's being used. I mean, the fact that they asked Suarez they used him 5 times in 7 games, that's way too much.
It is, but they now have the expanded rosters.
Well, it's only by 2. Roster's only gone to 28.
So that's all.
No, the old rule, they go to 40.
Yeah.
Can't do that. No, it's only 28.
Really? Oh, because I thought we'd have a few more warm bodies around, that you can throw in on a lopsided game.
Well, they changed the rule because, Bruce Bochy was the man that really exposed all this.
Mm-hmm.
When they go to 40, he'd bring up all these pitchers. And then he got into the pitching changes. You get one batter. You're coming out. Then we got lefty versus lefty, righty versus righty. He go through 4 pitches in an inning. That led to the 3 batter rule. And then there was the theory, wait a minute, we're allowing all these teams to bring up 40, and they're throwing all these kids out here at the end of the season, and they're impacting the pennant race. You're the last place Blight Sox. And if we had a 40-man roster, you're bringing every guy out of AAA and maybe some out of AA, and you're throwing these kids out there in a game against the Yankees, which impacts then the Yankees' war with the Orioles for first place in the American League East. We can't do that. That's not fair to the teams to allow them to run all these rookies out there. So that's why 2 years ago, they went from, now we're not going to do 40. You can only add 2. You can only have 28 on your roster in the month of September, because we don't want you waving a white flag, looking at your prospects in the middle of a pennant race against games with teams that are fighting other teams for first place. That's a long answer as to why they changed it.
See, that's a really interesting story.
You're right. I am a smart guy. Thank you.
You do know everything, and the whole Bruce Bochy angle to it. But we had Hader here. Remember, Hader set strict rules on what he would do. But Robert Suarez has the big contracts. You figure every time the phone rings, he's answering.
That's him.
Right, that's him. But yeah, these dudes get worn out. Now they brought back Alec Jacob, some of those 4A level guys, and he's kind of a unique pitcher. So hopefully they can find a way to win games more comfortably, so you don't need those high leverage guys.
Yeah, you can't have Morion pitching every day.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have Jacob pitching every day. There just has to be a better delineation of when we're going to the top 3 back of the bullpen guys. Because like I say, you're asking Suarez to do it 5 times in 7 games. That's too much.
Well, the starters need to go 6, and then I think that solves a lot of problems.
On we go. Fans Forum continues.
Okay, on we go, and let's go here to Carlos. Carlos says, are the Chargers reaching the playoffs this year, and do you think our professional athletes overpaid?
No, because the salary structure in baseball, unlike the damn salary structure in sports talk radio, salary structure in baseball is all triggered by gross revenue, and that's how they determine the amount of money each team has for payroll. As the gross revenues go up, the amount of money in the payroll pot goes up for every club to spend. Now, whether they spend it or not, that's a whole different story. But the Stars are getting percentage increases because the gross revenue into the players' union pot has gone up by a certain percentage every year. So it's the same way in the NBA. It's the same way in the NHL. That's the way the NFL operates too.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's overpaid. I mean, if
you're a capitalist, you don't give a crap.
But if you have someone willing to pay you what you're getting paid, then you are worth that amount. Just by nature of having that contract for that amount of money, that proves that you're worth it. Now, people always say, well, how in the heck can we be paying these ball players millions of dollars, and teachers have to pay for their own school supplies, and that whole argument. You know what? Fans are willing to spend a ton of money to fuel this engine of sports. And so if you were to ratchet down the players' salaries, then where does all that extra money go?
It goes into the pocket of the owner.
Exactly. So I'd rather have it go in the pocket of the player. So in my opinion, get as much as you can, baby.
And the first topic was Chargers playoffs. Yes, we got a long way to go. We got 16 weeks to go. I want to see improvement in the running game. I want to see the wide receiver group grow, because it did not look great Quentin Johnston makes a good catch, and then Quentin Johnston runs a wrong route, and the ball's overthrown. So everybody's first week is kind of sketchy, and you make an improvement from week 1 to week 2 because regular season is so different than preseason. Most of these guys didn't play in preseason because you protect them from injuries. But yeah, I do believe the Chargers are a playoff team. Got to keep the quarterback standing.
Keep them standing. And it was interesting in the press conference, Harbaugh said, that time between week 1 and week 2 is when you can make the biggest leap forward in terms of, making adjustments to your mistakes for all those players than in any 1 week gap of the season. So yeah, I think if you're a Charger fan, you've got to be feeling optimistic about all this. And so hopefully they do make the playoffs. It's been a while.
Well, I think at the end of the day, you look at the roster upgrades and acquisitions, it's a different roster. I mean, they got rid of 23 veteran players. And we saw that defense yesterday play really rugged. And that inside defensive tackle group, they stopped the run completely. And that allowed Bosa and Khalil Mack to go for maybe a combined 4 sacks and tackles for losses, etc. So they've just got to continue to keep those guys on the field. And I think the product will get better. And the offensive front was good. 3 number 1 draft picks in that offensive line. And, they boxed and they contained Max Crosby, and they did a really good job stopping the Raider run. So we'll go to Carolina, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Well, just for grins, how did our former Chargers like Eckler and Keenan Allen and all those guys that left, did they have good weekends?
Austin Eckler had 10 yards rushing.
Really?
No, I think he caught 6 balls out of the backfield in Washington. Jaden Daniels actually had a pretty decent first game for a rookie. Chicago, Caleb Williams had a lot of problems with the pass rush. Keenan Allen, I don't think, caught a lot of balls along the way. So the guys who are playing for new teams, just going to take them time too. And again, those 2 teams I mentioned are playing raw rookies. So those rookies are going through their own learning curve too.
Yeah. It's been a fun weekend to get started. And we've got the Niners tonight. Okay, let's go to social media. We got a couple of guys here involved, and let's talk about, there's a bunch of really good ones here. Let's start with Padre Dodgers, and this is from Brett. He says, I doubt they'll catch the Dodgers. You talk about the Padres. I doubt the Padres will catch the Dodgers, and they should hope for another series via the wild card against LA, in which they bring a stellar game and great focus to beat the juggernaut. That is why baseball can be so exciting. If you could just get in, you never know how we'll do. But once you enter the postseason, it's entirely about how you are playing during the playoffs.
It's interesting because one of the guys that is at the workout center that I go when I do rehab on my back, I talk to him all the time, and we're just talking about Dodgers, Padres, rivalry, etc. And I said, well, the last 6 games, San Diego at Arizona, San Diego at Dodger Stadium, are going to be challenging. And I said, the most important thing is to get to the playoffs. The other thing, the intangible thing, is get home field advantage. First round or second round playoffs, home field advantage is kind of important.
Yeah.
But that being said, his response to me, well, I just read what you wrote about the Padres having the second best record in all of baseball on the road. So that's not really an important thing. I thought to myself, smart guy. He's a smart guy because he reads all the stuff I write on my website. But yeah, Padres have the second best record in Major League Baseball. So even if they have to go on the road in the playoffs with this lineup and with this pitching staff and with this deep bullpen in a short series, I'm not intimidated. Somebody else going on the road, having to play all their playoff games on the road because they were the last one in, the wild card, could be in trouble. So he raised a good point.
Yeah, I'm not so worried about being on the road, but I would have loved, and there's still a chance that they could win the division, although it's out of reach almost now.
Well, the Dodgers still have a bunch of games against the Rocks and the Marlins.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then, they're probably not going to win the division, but imagine if they did, then they would get potentially a first round bye. And I think the Padres could really benefit from that. And the Dodgers certainly will.
Well, a lot of people beefing the buys last week kind of upset the rhythm of the guys that finished in first place. They didn't get to play for 5 days.
Yeah, but I think that's a BS excuse. I mean, you'll take the bye anytime to
point,
kind of rest your players, of course.
I agree with it. We move on. Next social media sound off.
Okay, let's go to do a little Chargers Raiders. And this guy was getting on your case about your preview of the Raider Charger game. He says, you must be a San Diego fan because you missed so many of our additions in Vegas. The Raiders are going to win by 6 points.
How did that work out? The Raiders upgraded themselves. There's no doubt. I think Christian Wilkins is an unbelievable acquisition, a defensive tackle. And there's no doubt what they did by virtue of the draft, getting the tight end this year, Brock Bowers, and the tight end a year ago, Michael Mayers. Zamir White, the running back, has to prove to me that he can be heavy duty and not put the ball on the turf, as happened on Sunday. But they got a black hole at quarterback. The black hole has a black hole at quarterback. So, all I can know, Born Free, is you need to have sales pitch me who's going to be your starting quarterback that's credible. And right now, I don't think Gardner Minshew is the guy. And Aiden O'Connell played adequate to manage the games at the end of last season. But I don't know you want to have him for 17 games and he's going to lead you to great times. I don't know about that.
Well, I think Aiden O'Connell just will make less mistakes, and he'll manage the game, and he's not going to win it on a superstar play. But remember, that's what they were talking about in the broadcast, is how the Chargers weren't making very many mistakes. So maybe they're going to have a quarterback controversy there with the Raiders, but geez, Raider fan, you should have seen the social media comments. They were confident that they were going to beat down the Chargers. It was going to be another 63-7 game. It didn't turn out that way.
The Charger players on Friday said, yeah, we got a bad taste in our mouth. Every time we think about those guys, we think about when it was 63-7 in the fourth quarter and Antonio Pierce left all their players in the game to run up the score. But the Chargers are a different team right now. It's a different culture right now, and we'll just see if they can continue this and stay free of injury. And from the Raiders' standpoint, stop drinking and stop fighting with people in the stands and solve the quarterback problem. Thank you very much.
Or don't be slipping the play-by-play guy a joint. Okay, let's. This is a fun comment here, and this is from Jim talking about. We started off talking about Juan Soto, but he was all talking about the sports talk radio. It says, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, please get back on the radio in San Diego. You would be number one in any time slot. San Diego sports talk radio is turned into a bucket of shit. Not one show or host worth listening to anymore. The clowns in the morning on 97.3 are garbage too. Please, Lee, we miss you. Get back on the radio.
Thank you for the compliment. Actually, the coach, John Quintera, and I have talked about what if we teamed up? But you got to have somebody that's willing to hire you and willing to pay you and willing to accept our style and our content. That has not happened yet. Not to say it wouldn't happen in the future. But at this point in time, just be happy you got the podcast. The best thing all you followers can do is you spread the word on social media. Hacksaw is back Mondays at 1 p.m., Thursdays at 1 p.m., and you need to join him because if you like the sports talk radio the way it should have been done, you'd surely like the podcast the way it is being done right now. So we need a network of fans to spread the word further about what we brought to live stream Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m.
That's the beauty of having a podcast is we're not limited by the size of the signal. We even go further than the 77,000 watt blowtorch signal from Baja to the Canadian Rockies, right?
Yeah, but we're everywhere.
Yeah, and that's good.
And not only are we everywhere, if you're not with us on live stream, that's no problem because then you can view it whenever it's easy for you, be that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because it's always up on live stream.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people now moved out of California and then they respond on social media, says, oh my God, I used to listen to you when I was a kid, and brings back a lot of good memories.
So help us network our name, tell them where we are. That's the best thing you can do in addition to giving me a bunch of crap on Fans Forum. Go ahead, John.
Okay, let's get a Rams comment here. This is from Jaron. He says, every team has issues, but the Rams will win the NFC West 12-5.
They're really hurting. They are really hurting. They are now down 4 offensive linemen. With Steve Avila getting hurt last night in the middle of that game, and Stafford was so courageous, and he took so many hits, and they almost won that game in Detroit, but they could not hold on because they were running out of players, and they ran out of time on the clock. I don't know that they're going to win the division. Doggone division's pretty good. Let's be realistic here. We'll just see how quickly they can get some of these old linemen back. The success they had a year ago in what was supposed to be a rebuild season was not only just based on the new acquisitions that Les Snead brought in, and draft-wise, they had a bunch that could really play, and they played all those kids. But the other intangible, they had no major injuries, none. And they never got into camp and got out of camp healthy. And now they had 3 guys go down last night in the Sunday night game with Detroit. So they got all kinds of physical problems. Big issue in the Rams.
Well, let's talk about the NFC West because it is going to be a tough division. Niners, you figure, are 1. We had the Rams 2. And then who's going to be 3? Seahawks are kind of middle of the road, right? And then, of course, the Cardinals are at the bottom.
Yeah, don't tell that to Geno Smith. They played pretty well yesterday. And Seattle's got guys. I mean, they've got 3 wide receivers, and Seattle's got a couple of running backs. And then Seattle is quietly rebuilt their offensive front, and their defense has got all the young guys who are playing pretty well. So Seattle's going to be a bear, especially up there. I don't know how Seattle's going to do on the road. And is Geno Smith going to be vintage Geno Smith, which means he plays well here and then doesn't play well? I think they're better, and that's why I think it's going to be a challenge for the Rams to hold on to second place because Seattle's coming. And I don't know what to make of Arizona. I mean, Arizona scared the hell out of Buffalo on the road in that first game with Kyler Murray and with James Conner, the running back. And so we'll see if they can do that over a 17-game schedule.
You know, Geno Smith's an interesting character because if you were to like stack rank the quarterbacks, you know, you have your elite ones at the top and then the very good. But for me, Geno Smith and Gardner Minshew are kind of close to each other in the rankings, don't you think?
You just didn't want to say he's ranked 24th, did you?
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
But we'll see. They signed him to a contract extension. I thought they're going to hit the eject button, but they kept them. So we'll just see what Geno does. Geno, I guess, can win some games. He can manage some games, but Geno doesn't have a track record doing anything to get your butt in the postseason in January.
Yeah, I think he's just the kind of guy that will not make mistakes and manage the team. And, you know, so we'll see.
Real good. Listen, we hope you have enjoyed our Monday podcast. We